Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of OneMicNite Talk. We thank you for joining us. For all of you who are coming back, and for those of you who are watching for the first time, please take a moment, click down on the bottom, subscribe to the podcast. As you know, we have an audio podcast, which you can catch on Spotify, Anchor FM, wherever you download podcasts, or you can watch it on YouTube. Every Tuesday night, we have a live chat. So we encourage you to follow us on YouTube and join in the live chat so we talk about the episodes as the episodes are playing. You can also now watch the episodes on Spotify too. So that's a big news for this week. I'm really excited this week because we have a special guest. We have international consultant and clinical psychotherapist and author, Shane Mark Tull, and he is in the building, and we're talking about mental health today. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We're very excited. We have questions, and he has a new book out, which we want to talk about. The book is called The Mental Health Pandemic. And we want to welcome him to OneMicNite Talk. Welcome.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure to be here. Happy Monday to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you again for inviting me. My name is Shane Mark Tull. I am a clinical psychotherapist and an international consultant in the area of mental health. It is so important for us to be aware of our mental health. So I've been in practice for more than 2 decades, especially dealing with the mental health of people of Black and brown people as well. So I think it's important that we are aware of the generational and intergenerational trauma that we've experienced and how that has impacted and shaped our lives. So that's really been my life's work. So I'm very happy to be here to talk about that. My book is called The Mental Health Pandemic, and it really came out of the global pandemic that we're still experiencing. And I know for some we're thinking it's an endemic and we're to the end, but we really don't know. So where we are every day, there's new challenges. So I really believe that if we're able to, the things that we've been able to do through the past 2 years and how we have survived, I really believe that if we continue that, it really is a testimony to our humanity.
I want to interrupt you for 1 second because I want to talk about your book, which is fantastic because your book gives us some insight and resources to help identify mental health, which is a problem that we all have. What would you say is the purpose of your book?
For me, the purpose of the book is that someone will be able to pick it up, read it, and at the end of it feel like they have more cachet in your toolbox to deal with mental health or understanding the mental health of the people in our lives, and also getting an understanding of our own mental health. I really want at the end of this experience someone feel empowered and hopeful, and it's really about just exploring the premise that mental health has become the pandemic within the pandemic. I really think that's what mental health has become. And even though it existed before, I think the pandemic really forced us to recognize and talk about our mental health and really allow us to be more aware, because our life changed so drastically and so sudden that we really didn't have a choice but to stay home, separate, and when you're out and working and living your life, there are issues that you can probably just brush over. But when you're sitting at home for a month or two, it really crystallized that we have to deal with the things that really bothers us. So I think that was one of the reasons that I just being in New York when the pandemic started and really seeing how it affected everyone, including me. So I really wanted to offer a body of work that anybody could pick up and read and feel, okay, I understand this thing called mental health. And it's not an abstract thing at all. It is, I'm sorry about that. It is something that it's something we all deal with. Mental health is what we're doing right now, engaging and having a conversation about mental health.
About mental health. I think you're exactly right. You hit the nail right on the head. It's not abstract, but I think that most people think that it's abstract. And I think that, your book is great because what you do is you empower people to challenge themselves to get mental health. Now, I want to read something to you here. I've got some stats. So according to the MHA.org, which is the Mental Health Organization of America, 19.86% of Americans express mental health, which means about 50 million Americans. The AMA, which is any mental illness, is a diagnosable mental behavior, emotional disorder, developmental or substance abuse disorder. What do you say about that?
It says that mental health is real. That's what it says. That if the volume of people that are experiencing mental health, and those are just the ones that are talking about it. Remember that culturally, we carry around mental health as an intergenerational, and I think at some point as a national shame, is we really don't talk about it, and we really prefer that we just don't have a conversation. Particularly in our Black and brown communities,
yes,
it's not something that we explore. I am happy to say that more people are exploring their mental health and being aware, and the conversation is really becoming daily, and it's more public. So if the book is just able to do that, I really believe that it has done a service to humanity.
Well done. I think my co-hosts have some questions for you. Ashley, have anything?
Yes. So like everyone else, we all vividly remember March 13th, 2020. And I know me and my friends always have this discussion, and maybe everyone else have had this discussion. But the question I have for you is that there's the question of, there are a lot of people who thrived in the pandemic and a lot of people who really, really suffered mentally. What is the closing gap of that? Why did some people thrive? Because my friends always say that I really thrived in the pandemic. And a lot of my friends didn't thrive. They mentally were disengaging, depression hit, anxiety, all those things. What is that? How did some people thrive and some people didn't thrive? What is that about, you think?
I really think it's our individual amazing capacity, how we respond to trauma. Some people in trauma, they really respond as, I got this, I can power through it. But that's a good thing, because I think we need some kind of mechanism or defense mechanism to help us survive the trauma. It doesn't mean that we were not affected or that we are not affected. For me, I think I'm experiencing the trauma of the pandemic now, because in the beginning, I was doing so much work helping other people and taking care of others. So for me, I have this delay residual effect of the pandemic. So it's just your capacity and how you respond, and also your support system. Maybe you had a good support system.
Okay. Now, how are you dealing with that delay? How did you start noticing you're feeling that delay?
I'm pretty in tune with my feelings, and I do have a really great support system. So now that most of the people that have suffered the trauma, they're doing better. So I decided that this is my time to take care of myself. There's another caveat to my book, The Mental Health Pandemic, Be Gentle to Yourself. That's my hashtag. So I'm taking time to be gentle to myself and really giving myself permission to mourn and experience the loss. Because, we haven't taken a breath to really think of the magnitude of the loss that we collectively experience. And you may know some people that have lost several family members to the pandemic, or they may lose a family member during the pandemic, but was unable to go to the funeral or unable to visit the family. So we're still dealing with that collective trauma. Yeah.
And not only just loss to, of family members and life, but even loss of a lifestyle where you're having to create a whole new life for yourself. The old life is not there anymore. We have a new normal, which is the way we're living now. And how do I create a new world for myself? So that's a huge,
Yeah, and we're trying to create this new normal in a hastily unchanging world.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
And
the word.
that could be traumatic. Now that we're trying to go back to this thing called normal, we realize it's not really working for a lot of people. Like, people are doing better working from home.
Yes.
And we really have to realize that and think out the box. I've been consulting with some firms and really telling them it's okay for your folks to work from home. Because the reality is, the research has shown that during the pandemic, companies did very, very well. People work from home, the company saw more productivity. So if it worked during a pandemic, believe me, it can still work. And it's maybe people like you and I that don't run a company, it was rough.
Right.
Because you were home, consider a parent or a single mom home with 4 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment. Really can't go outside, can't do anything, have to homeschool, have to be a parent, have to be a psychiatrist, everything. Think of that one person trying to manage that. Think of kids being involved in abusive relationships where when they're at school, they're away from the perpetrator, as opposed to you're locked up for almost 4 or 5 months with that perpetrator.
Yes.
Those are the kind of things that people are now recognizing, and they're now trying to deal with, and especially in our Black and brown community. And child abuse and incest and all that stuff are not things we talk about. But I really believe this pandemic really forced us to recognize the trauma that kids go through, and just trying to get them back into school. This is a traumatic experience for them. I did a radio show, a TV show in Jamaica, and they were talking about when they opened back up, this volume of crime went up. People were more aggressive to each other, and they were fighting because for 2 years you were separated. And just think of, you're not going anywhere for 2 years, and then one morning you end up in the middle of Grand Central at rush hour. That could be extremely jarring. Yeah. On the normal mornings, if there's ever such a thing, it's crazy. But think of just being thrown back out into the A train, 8 o'clock in the morning, and people are just running up and down all over, and hopefully someone don't come in the train and start shooting. That's the kind of anxiety that we continue to live with.
Absolutely.
And live in.
Absolutely. Liz, you have anything?
I'm just listening. It's so interesting, everything that's being discussed right now and that's coming forth. And I've been writing down as you're speaking. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm writing down just bullet notes. You said, don't treat depression as an abstract concept, right? You said use it as an exercise when treating it of support and trust. Now, me speaking from, I myself suffer from manic depression. So the pandemic hit me a particular way, where I, by nature, am more of an introvert, and it just cocooned me even more. Now, I feel that I don't really discuss it much because there's a stigma, as you mentioned before. And there's, and something that you said that really struck me was generational depression. I've never heard that expression before, and it intrigues me. What do you specifically mean by generational depression? Is it that families have been suffering ongoingly throughout generations of depression, and therefore it becomes a hereditary type of connotation, would you say?
I would say that, but also generational trauma. If you are of an African American experience, think of slavery.
Yes.
And coming here. If you are of an immigrant experience like myself, think of being about 10 years old and coming to New York in the middle of the HIV crisis and all the hysteria around that. You know, I'm this guy from Guyana, and I have an accent, and I go to school, and the kids are different. I sound different. They sound different. You're being bullied, and you know all of that. That trauma. That is trauma. And as we go through our lives, it stays with us. It really stays with us.
I completely understand that, and you know, because there is a stigma, shall we say, on someone who expresses, I might have this or I do have this. I feel that it creates a fear in a person who's suffering from this, and they suffer in silence. And that in itself, to me, is an illness, because you're being shunned away. You're not being accepted. It's almost like, you know, and dare I say, I don't want to use this as, you know, but the Black community, the Hispanic community, you know, gay and lesbian community, the you know, the LGBTQ community, it's all looked down upon in a certain way. And I feel that you can actually fit depression into that, because it's almost saying like something's wrong with you, and nothing is wrong with a person who suffers from depression. It's just that we need to learn how to maneuver that, to learn how to tell ourselves, you know, there's nothing wrong with me. I just have something that I cannot control, that's out of my control. It's an illness, you know, and I need, and you know, I'm glad that you're on, because even selecting a psychotherapist, even selecting, you know, a psychiatrist, it's not as simple as people, oh, why don't you see a psychiatrist?
You're right.
Why don't you see a psychotherapist?
You're right. Let's go down that route. How do we begin to help this problem? How do we select therapists? What do we do?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for sharing that, because I think the more we share about our experience, someone is listening, and it helps that person. So I want to honor the moment by just you being able to share that and feel safe about it. But I also want to echo that there's nothing wrong with us when we experience a mental health crisis. We have all experienced several mental health crises in our time. Just that some of us have the capacity to respond better, or they had really good support system that helped them through. And also, we also need to really demystify this myth around mental health, that it's not something Black people do or people of color do. It's something that everybody has to do to be well. We have to take care of ourselves. And to the point of how do you select a good psychiatrist or a good therapist, I tell my potential clients that at least interview 3 people, at least, because this is someone you will be telling your own intimate thoughts to, and you want them to have an understanding of who you are and what your life experience is, because we come to every situation with our lived experience. So you want someone that can understand that. And it doesn't, I think someone that shares your cultural background could be very helpful. It could be, but also you want someone that sees you as a human and comes to this experience with humanity and compassion. Because I do think that compassion and accountability can coexist in the same space. Yes. So I really want you, when you're thinking of a therapist, at least meet with at least 3 people. If it doesn't feel right, just keep looking. You will know when you meet the right person that you can work with. If you have any inkling that there's something off, work on that and keep moving.
That's a good one.
That's good.
May I say something? It's because a psychotherapist is not just a psychotherapist. You're building a relationship. They almost become like a family member in a way. It's like almost like your right hand, correct? I mean, I feel that way. And Marcos, I would like to ask another question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go.
I noticed that you have a focus on mental health in men as well. What interested you in that, and why do you feel that that's a focal point for you?
We lost your audio. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Think of a 5-year-old boy, especially say a 5-year-old African-American boy, runs, fall down, scrape his knees, get up, start crying. What are some of the immediate messages he gets?
Stop crying, most
Don't
likely.
cry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop
Be
being
a
a
big
baby.
boy. Be a big
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, boys don't cry.
Boys don't cry.
Right.
So immediately you're telling him his feelings are not valid. And take that same 5-year-old kid, 25 years later, his wife or partner's telling him, "You men don't talk." So we get this message very early about the pantheon of where we fall in terms of being able to talk about our emotions. Think of a teenage boy that just had his first heartbreak. He's not going to go to his mama crying or his friends crying. And if he does, he's being mocked and they're like, "Oh, just find another girlfriend." He says, which tells us again, we don't talk about feelings. So now we're men, we have all of this stuff bottled up in us, and there's not a lot of spaces where we can go and ventilate those feelings and not be judged. I think now those spaces are opening up, and I really believe that we have to think of how do we deliver community mental health services instead of having an office where, oh, we're going to have a men's day or we're going to encourage men to come in, and maybe we need to go where they are. And there's a lot of therapy that goes on at the rum shop and the barber shop. That's why those are those.
I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head again. I mean, you were talking about cultures. We're talking about Black and brown people who have years of, here we go, systemic oppression, who need to deal with those things. So we should have community services where it's available for us to go in and talk. And I think that one of the biggest things, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is consistency in getting the help. Once you find the help, you have to be consistent in order to, develop and help mental hygiene. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times people in our community, we don't even have the economic means to get the help. We don't even know where to begin. I would say to begin by looking in the phone book. Find the health professional. Ask the hospital if they have a sliding scale for therapy. And by sliding scale, I mean whatever you can afford to pay, they'll accept you and you can get therapy.
And they're free community mental health.
Free community.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But once
it's important
again,
for us to do it.
It's how we market those programs. Those programs are mostly marketed to women and children. There are not a lot of men-focused programs that falls under mental health. So really, we also have to create spaces. I did, within the 2 years that I've been doing this, I noticed that, and it's reflected in the book, if a safe space is created for men, they will show up, they will ventilate, they will talk about their feelings, and they will support each other. If you think of the intergenerational trauma that we've experienced, think of getting 18 to 25-year-old men in the same space with men over 50. Imagine the amount of support that they both can give each other. What you can impart to an 18-year-old young man that is probably now starting college or just had his first child and didn't have a father, that had no role models. If this young man had a space where he can come to and talk about, I'm really scared because being a dad is it didn't come, my son and I had this conversation when he was about 5 years old. I'm like, being a dad didn't come with a handbook. He said, well, being a son didn't come with a handbook either. So I guess we have to figure this out. 25 years later, we're still trying to figure out this thing called relationships.
Right. Who knows? Even if you put the two groups together, maybe the older men will even say, hey, why don't you wait a few years before you have kids? Get your career together, get your life together, and if you find a spouse or a partner, you get with them and you build that first, and then you bring along a child. So that can change a whole structure.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was going to ask the question of because you were talking about creating a safe space as women, how can we create a safe space with our partners, even in dating, when you're meeting someone, asking questions, how can we create that safe space for our brothers, our sisters, not brothers, sisters, but for our brothers, and for even people we're dating, and even when you're getting engaged, how do you create safe space for men to talk and to express themselves so they do feel like they're in a safe space?
I think meeting up and having conversations, or being part of a book club and reading certain books on relationships, or just hanging out and talking with men and finding out when they think of potentially dating someone, what are their goals, what are they looking for, and are their goals, or is what I say consistent with my behavior? Because there are a lot of us, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want to do this. Okay, you're 35, what have you done? Do you have savings? Do you have good credit? Have you seen a therapist? If you are planning and dating this person seriously, leading to marriage, have both of you decided that maybe therapy should be part of our experience before we really commit to a marriage? And really, talk about your family. Are there any mental health issues in your family, or are there any diseases in your family that will affect your life as you move forward? And I really think if we have these honest conversations, where we will be able to make better choices, and we will create that same space as well. And we need to talk to our brothers about what it is to be dating someone, and to be respectful, and to have honor, be a man of your word. If you say you're going to show up, be consistent. There's a question I ask men. I ask them, or especially if they have daughters, ask them, are you the man you want your daughter to be dating right now?
Mm-hmm.
It really floors them. And it's a good question to ask one of your potential boyfriends or partners. Are you the man or woman that you would want your daughter or your son to be dating?
That's a good one.
It is a good one.
It's not so all they ask. It really
That's a really, because it made me even think of myself. Am I the woman that you should date, or that's a really good question. Oh my gosh, that's a journal prompt for today.
Yeah. Doctor, let me ask you something. Who was your mentor? Who guided you?
Oh, I think my parents. I'm the youngest of 14 siblings. I'm Guyanese, but we're Catholic. We're very procreative. But my mom and dad, they always had this space where they created, where they spend time with us individually, especially my mom, because she was home during the day. And I just think she was the most compassionate, wise, charming person I ever know. Now, of course, we can all say that about our moms, but just the way she was always able to navigate and make each one of us, she see us as individuals. She really, and for me, it was more important because I'm a twin. I'm an identical twin. So it's very clear that you are individuals. You're not being a twin doesn't mean you're stuck together. You can go out and do different things and enjoy different things and not dress the same way. And so
that's shocking because
Wow.
most mothers don't do that. They're always like,
Right.
you have to go to the same
Yes.
school, you have to have the same friends, why you're not like that. Like, that's really interesting.
Right.
Wow.
And you know
Maybe
that
if you
brings
have
me
12 other kids, you think a little differently.
kind of figure it out early that
Right, definitely. I love that.
you know, a great point that you made is you have a twin, but you're treated as individuals. Fantastic point. And that to circle back around to what we originally were discussing in this session is collectively, globally, yes, we went through an experience. Everyone was experiencing this, but individually, we were experiencing it in our private life at home. So although we were going through something collectively, individually, we were having our own storm and adding it onto this global experience. So that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Even though we might be the same and we're human beings, so I see as all the same. We're human beings, right? We're different.
Yeah.
We're the same, but we're different.
Right.
And
Which is
we
also
have to
why,
have
and I think we've
right?
talked about this in some of our episodes also, which we deal with it in different ways. There are different ways to do it. Like some of you go running. Some of you meditate. Some of you, go on vacation and get silent. You find your space. So we all have to find different ways to cope with it in our unique and individual way. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And Marcos, to piggyback up on what you said, what about those people that tell you, oh, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it? It's almost like you're talking to them, but they're not listening to you. And that shuts you off even more, because you're like, I don't want to be myself because I'm not going to be received, because they're going to get tired of me repeating myself, repeating that I'm depressed, repeating that I feel lonely, repeating. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with something like that? Because the reason why I ask is because I've faced this. I know that because of the wavering of the type of depression that I have, obviously people want to be around me when I'm happy and I'm on my high in that circle. But when I come back down and it's a quick slope and it happens frequently, nobody wants to deal. Nobody wants to, you know what I mean? Marcos has been fantastic at that, and Ashley too, where they do checkups we do checkups on each other. Hey, how you doing today? A random note, which makes all the difference.
Yeah, it really does. And that's in daily life, even, whether you're depressed or not, it's checking in with people and making that connection, and you have to. And that's just what I feel strongly about anyway. I reach out to so many people on a daily basis just to check in and see how people are doing. People do it to me.
And it's important to do that and not just ask how you're doing, like, how are you really?
How are you really doing?
Right.
You listen. Yeah.
How are you really doing? Because I think when people ask us that question, we generally have this rebuttal, I'm fine.
Yes.
Are you? Are you really fine? Yeah.
Yes. So good.
Absolutely.
But do we think like let's just say like taking on sides of the other people, right? Who can't handle like when like you said, they can't handle when you hit low. Is there such thing as like we have to be emotionally intelligent about emotional boundaries with people? Like, is that something that could you dive into that a little bit more, that maybe we can like learn how to tell people like, you know what, like I can't make space for you, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, is that something that we all need to deal with, like emotional boundaries with each other? But how do we deal with emotional boundaries and still be supportive and be a friend?
So good. That's so good. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm very clear that no is a complete sentence.
Okay, I like that.
okay.
But I can say no, but I can still offer you something. I can do this. However, maybe you may want to think of finding someone to talk to. I can give you a referral. I can even go with you to see if.
Yes,
I guess the bigger
good.
question and what you're saying too is, can we expect one person to be listening to our problems every time?
There we go, Marco.
That's too much for us to ask for one person to put that on them. You know, when I'm depressed every day or I'm depressed every other day. That's a lot to ask of someone. And so we have to find a method or a way to alleviate that ourselves, which is what I was saying. You meditate, you go for a run, you work out. You have to find other ways to do, whether it's medication, you know, or talking to your therapist, right?
And sometimes we need all the above.
All of the above.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the above.
A good balance of all of them.
Good
right?
balance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's important that we take agency of ourselves, and control. And if I'm depressed, admit that you're depressed, admit you're having a rough time, and go and get the help you need.
Yes.
I like
Because
that.
we are responsible for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yes.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
depend on somebody else to carry us through everything. We have to learn strength, right? Strength and understanding of what's going on and why is it going on. You know, I think you should be curious about that. Why is that happening?
Definitely.
You
And
know?
also, we may not the thought of doing individual therapy may be a little rough or overwhelming for us. There are groups out there that you can do group therapy. There are support groups out there where you will have the support of the community with you to do it. So I always recommend, if you think individual is too rough, do group therapy. Get involved in a self-help group, or find something that you like to do. There's a club, there's a organization, an association for everything that you would want to be into. There's something out there that get involved, and sometimes just do some charity work.
That's good.
Do charity work, and build your list of gratitude.
Like that.
Especially when you are depressed, think of all the things that you have to be grateful for. And we've all been there. There are days I'm grateful for the floor I'm sitting in, on the colors on my wall. I can look outside and see it's green. I have family and I have friends, but I also have me. And me is important. I'm important. So I have to be invested in myself so I can continuously live in this space where grace and gratitude happens.
We talk about this all the time. Ashley talks about grace. I talk about the importance of self. I come first.
So good.
I come first.
Yeah.
Universe or God or whatever you believe in, that energy, that's number one, but I come next.
Yes.
And then
we have to take responsibility for ourselves. If we're happy, we should take responsibility. If we're sad, we definitely want to take responsibility. And ask ourselves, why am I in this same space?
Constantly, right? Why am I constantly circling back? Something that I use, and I've said before, is the power of no. Teaching yourself the power of no and saying, no, I'm not going to be depressed today. And utilizing everything that all three of you have said. Find a hobby, be grateful. I have been practicing the power of no. And I utilized it a lot recently, where I'm like, no, get up, do something. No, get up. Like you said, Marcos, go take a walk. No, I don't like feel. That word, it's looked at as negatively sometimes, I see, but no is very powerful.
It's also, I think, the power of being alone and not lonely.
Ooh,
and being able to be in your space and be alone and have peace and finding that peace in that space and not feeling lonely and dependent upon something else or someone else, or, you know, so we have to be okay with being alone. Know that whatever I'm going through, whatever battle I'm doing, or whatever life changes I'm having, that I'm okay to be alone in fighting that fight.
And that you may not be okay today, but you're gonna get there.
Yes.
You're working towards it, right?
Working
You're
towards it.
working towards it. Very true. Very true.
I think we should end it on that note, you guys, because I know he has a lot to do, and we want to thank you for your time here. Please tell us how we can get your book and keep in touch with you.
Yes, it's on Amazon, The Mental Health Pandemic, and please invite me back. This was really great. It's a good way to start my Monday. So,
Yeah. Oh wow.
My gratitude
This was like amazing. Yeah.
I didn't know what this was going to be like, but I'm really glad I commit to participate in, and thank you for having me.
Thank
Have
you.
a great week, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Before you go, this is like we're interviewing a psychotherapist as opposed to a psychotherapist interviewing the patient. Hey, you got a preview, everyone.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Awesome.
win.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks again.
Okay, everyone, that was clinical psychotherapist and author Shane Mark Tull. He's an international consultant. And wow, the book is called The Mental Health Pandemic. And I encourage you all to get the book. Make sure you follow him and find out what he's all about. Guys, what's your thoughts?
It's so great talking to someone, especially towards the end where he said, some days he doesn't even feel well.
Yes.
And I think it just shows us that we need to stop perceiving that every day will be like roses, rainbows, I got this. Sometimes you just like, and let's get out of even me, right? I've been thinking about it. Stop getting out of like, I have anxiety today, it's a rough day. No, sometimes it's just not a good day.
Yeah.
And it's not a good day according to what you think is not a good day.
Right.
But it might be a normal day in the world. It's just nothing exciting is happening. And you just, because you know our thoughts, right? Our thoughts try to tell us certain things, which is not true. So it's like I'm learning to, when my thoughts are appearing like clouds, I like to think of my thoughts as clouds, right? Just let them just grace on by, float on by. And it doesn't mean you're having a bad day. You're living life and it just is what it is.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so
I think you're right.
it was
And
so
you know,
nice hearing- yeah.
a lot of times, yeah, things don't work out the way we plan to. The expectations don't happen when we want it to happen, the way we want it to happen. We have to be flexible. And we have to know that, you know, the possibility of something new is there, or the possibility of what we expected will come later. But there's also a lesson to be learned in that moment.
Right. But don't you think we sometimes make it a bigger deal than what it is? Yeah. You know, like even when we wake up, it's like, oh my God, rough morning. And it's like,
it's not that bad.
But it's like you haven't even waken up yet. You're just groggy. Like, give yourself a minute. You know what I mean?
And you know what, Ashley, like what you're saying is like we're feeding negative feelings into our body even before, like you said, even before we're fully awake. We're like training our mind to think negatively.
Right.
How about we train our mind, right? To think differently.
That's what I'm saying.
How do we counteract that? I mean, even in those moments where we're doing that, what can we do?
You know what I do?
Your mind just runs away with stuff, and you just, I'm over here.
You build up a whole scenario. It hasn't even happened.
Right.
It happened this morning for me. So I'm battling my allergies, right? I woke up with this eye, because we're in the camera. This eye was super, super red. And I was like, now, come on. I got the show.
Right.
I'm about to look crazy. And so what I did was like, I said to myself out loud, today is a great day. I took my butt in the shower. I steamed the showered, put some great music on, and just went about my day in the morning, and just like took my allergy pills, put my eye drops in, and just waited for everything just to come together. Because I was just thinking at the end of the day, girl, you just woke up. It don't even matter. Get your stuff started. And I think that's what my answer to you is. It's like, just keep moving. Don't just say to yourself out loud, today's a great day.
Right.
Don't go into other things of why it's gonna be a great day. Don't do none of that. Just keep moving.
I gotta tell you guys a little story. I don't mean to cut you off, but I had a little situation the other day, and I had to do this thing, and I know I look crazy doing it. So I had a little situation, and I can't be too specific because
be specific. Get the
people
deets.
probably listen or watch, or we'll find out. But the energy of my day was so bad, and I was in a place where I couldn't leave. So I talked to the ancestors. I created a force field around myself. I turned around in a circle like I was making an actual force field.
Oh, I love that.
Went on about my day, and it turned out to be great. Because I had a force field around me from all the negative energy that was coming in. And whether, it literally happened, but it was in my mind that I created this force field so I was not impacted by what was going on over here. It was trying to come.
I love that.
Right?
Well, sometimes
you said
you have to become your own superhero.
Walk around in a circle.
I like that. Because you know what it is? It's your mind. It's just like, it's not as bad as you seem. Because we keep forgetting our mind is trying to keep us safe.
Exactly.
And sometimes our thoughts, like Liz said, they get away from us.
Yep.
And it's just, you got to center yourself like, oh, no. I'm in control. And I love what you did. The force field, like whatever you need to do. Mm-hmm. But it's just like he said, like getting tools in your toolbox. So you have to start reaching in there like, okay, this tool not going to work.
It don't work, right.
Like maybe prayer won't work today. Right. Maybe speaking out loud will work. Or maybe like they say movement.
Right.
Movement works, and that's what you need.
Like Liz was saying, you go for a walk. Right? Yeah, Liz, you said you go for a walk.
Go to the brain.
Yeah, like so and I'm also, like I said, I'm trying to get better at like not making things such a big deal. Like just keep moving. Like I said, I don't give myself room to think of whatever. I just keep moving. Like I have to get dressed, I have to put on makeup, I have to eat, I have to drink water. I just decided like just keep on moving, and if you don't give your mind any room to like speak to you. And it's just be foolishness half the time. Foolishness.
I like what you did, Marcos. It's like you became your own superhero.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna try that. I love that.
See what happens. It's all in your mind.
I love that.
So guys, we want to thank you for joining us for this episode of OneMicNite Talk.
We're done?
We appreciate you. We have to be done. We got to get out of here. Liz, you got things to do. I know I have things to do.
Oh,
Yeah, we thank everybody for watching us. Please, if you have any mental health issues and you need someone to talk to, the MHA, you can call 1-800-273-TALK. They have a crisis hotline. They have therapists. They have support groups like clinical psychotherapist Shane Mark Tull, hospitals. They have sliding scales. They have free therapy sessions.
Yeah.
Get some help. There's no shame in it. There's no
shame.
Thank you guys for joining us for OneMicNite Talk. We love you.
Oh, yeah. Much love.